Our farm name is Cosmic Apple Gardens. So every year we get a lot of phone calls about apples. And now that there's the cosmic apple variety, that's happening too, which has been kind of entertaining. But we've had that name now since I think '96. We are a 50-acre certified organic and biodynamic operation. Everything we grow is either the bare minimum for us is organic. Like I said, my husband started in '96. I came on board in 2002, I think, and we've just been farming ever since. We have a CSA that serves about like 180 people, and we do 3 markets, 2 in Jackson and 1 in Teton Valley. We just really, really believe in real clean food. And the certification for us really provides, it's a stamp of approval. We did for a while sell sausage and stuff at stores, and we weren't there to talk about our product. So that having it certified gave a customer that we couldn't interact with assurance that it was actually organic. And we like that. So we started with cows. They provide so much for us, and they are giving so much back to the earth, through their digestion. They help with the pasture. I think that they're really important, the grazing, what they do for creating healthy grasses. And for us, the pasture and the grasses is how we rest the garden. If we need to get another cow, we do buy from organic. We have a relationship with Lifeline Farm up in Montana also, and the Bitterroot Valley. That's where Jed went to learn how to take care of cows. So that's who we call when we need a calf. Like June 1st to October 15th, give or take, is about when the cows are on pasture around here. So that's, once they're on pasture, that's where all their feed is coming from. And we rotationally graze them. We move them to a new paddock every single day. We buy hay for them in the winter. We have a certified organic operation that we work with up in Mud Lake, Idaho. So they bring us, a couple semis of hay to get through the winter. Now if we have questions too, we can check the integrity, the USDA organic integrity database to make sure people's certificates are current. That's our job as organic farmers, is to make sure the feed we're getting is organic. They have 2 sheds that are, they're open on one side. The side that doesn't face the wind is open. They could go out on pasture all winter, but they choose not to post hole through the snow. So they do stay really close, which is great because then we scrape up all that manure in the spring, and that's our compost pile. And then chickens, we got the chickens just because, eggs are a great way to get people in the door. It seems like anybody, they might not know what kale is, but they know what eggs are. So the chickens we order from a hatchery, get them as day olds. And yeah, if you get them as day olds, they can be certified organic. They get here and we start treating them organically right away. For the chicken feed, we order from Montana, flour and grain from certified organic producer. And, that's ebbed and flowed too. Sometimes, before we found this place in Montana became available, we were getting it from California. It's kind of a tricky part about being in Idaho. You have to get stuff shipped in from really far sometimes. You just got to start digging and you got to pivot. But I will say something that I think is great is, it's also about building relationship. And sometimes that takes some legwork. It's not like ordering from Amazon. We're all working to grow organics. The more organic producers we can support, the more organic producers there are out there. Our coop in the summer, it's on skids and we drag it out, and it's a full building. It's probably 9 feet high. So we drag that out on pasture. It probably sits in one spot, I don't know, like 3 weeks to a month before it gets moved. 75 birds fit in there comfortably with the perches. They have, we have electric netting that we put around them. So they have access to outside during all the daylight hours. In the wintertime, what we actually do is we have 3 what we call big greenhouses, and they're 20 by 100. And each winter, a different one of those greenhouses also houses them. So even, even in the Tetons, when the snow is 3 feet deep, our chickens are foraging and playing in soil and taking dust baths and doing all the chicken things. So we have the chickens, and then we also have the pigs. We tend to put the pigs after the garden in our rotation, because then they till it up and dig it, and they just, they eat a ton of the weed seeds and get, a lot of the roots of the weeds out. So that's kind of our rotation as we start with garden, then put the pigs, then overseed it to pasture for the cows. So all of the animals play a role in our soil health, which for us is what farming is all about. Like, that's our job as farmers, is to take care of the soil. And the animals just are integral in that. The pigs, we buy grain. And I think it's been coming from the same farm up in Mud Lake. The same thing shows up on a semi. We fill up our granary with, sometimes it's barley, sometimes it's wheat, just kind of depends on what we can get. And then we grind it ourselves. So we have a sow and a boar. Same thing. They each have their own lean-to. But in the winter, they're together when it's cold. We're bedding them. We rotate what animals get bedded each night. So we do, we pay attention to the pastures and how they're producing, and, if there gets to be any bare spots, from the voles or whatever. So there'll be times where we do go in and overseed where there's already pasture, and that helps it just helps. We're putting fresh seed down, get some more stuff going. We do try to really have a diversity of grasses out there. We're definitely not doing just one thing. So when we do overseed, it's a seed mix of all kinds of different things that do well here. So yeah, like I said, we rotate from veggies to cover crop to pasture is how our rotation goes to the farm, and that's like a 10-year rotation. It's not, every season, it's about 10 years feels really good. If we can get it through in that. So we graze. That's super helpful, I think, for, that just helps the plants and gets the roots going. We do compost, so there's the cow manure that's hitting the pastures is helping. And then we do spread compost from our compost pile also on the pastures in the fall, so that it can be incorporated in the wintertime. Those nutrients all get pulled down through the soil. Then we also have to irrigate in this climate. So that's another big part of keeping the pastures healthy, is making sure they have enough water. We take all of our animals out to a certified organic butcher. We're really lucky. There's one, now there's actually another one that started within an hour's drive. So we get all of our animals processed at a butcher. And that is just definitely one of those things that, it's a community. We don't feel like we have to do every single thing ourselves. So how we sell our meat is at our CSA pickups. We do take a cooler to each of the pickups, and people can buy meat there. We also have what we call the honor shed at the farm. We keep one freezer in there stocked with meat that's priced. So we have a lot of people stopping in and just buying meat there. We do that. We really don't look at what other people are pricing things at, and we really try to figure out our cost and then add a percentage, based on what we think we should make. At the end of the day, like, I have a family I need to provide for. I make a great product that is helping other people, and I need to price it accordingly. Like, I hear that people say they don't like the cost of organics because it's too expensive, or getting certified is too expensive. That's part of your customer's cost. You got to include it in there. They're willing to pay a premium. Our goal has always been to be just directly to consumer and to cut out the middle person. So that's just what we've always done. But there's stores out there like dying for any locally priced stuff. And you don't have to drop your wholesale price super low if you're dropping them off 10 pounds of sausage every, 2 weeks. Like, set your price and they'll mark it up, and either their customers will buy it or they won't. And chances are they're going to buy it. Your customers will tell you why they like your products. And that's your selling point. And that's how you get more customers, right? Like, I can talk about pasture rotation and, healthy roots and soil microbes and like all that stuff. But my customers want to talk about how good it tastes. That's what they want to talk about. So you have to listen to your customers and hear what's important to them, And then that's how you market, and that's how you connect with other customers. Don't feel like you have to sell to every single person out there. You'll find your customers and nurture those people, because they're the ones that are going to tell their friends and they're going to keep coming back. Don't worry about the customer that's like, $9 for eggs, I can't do that. Like, fine, they can't do that. And that's okay. They need to do what's right for them, and you need to do what's right for you. And, be proud of what you're doing and just keep going. We are, kind of old school Luddites. And we have a clipboard out at the farm where we're writing down, how much milk we're getting every day, how many eggs we're getting every day, and the high and low temperatures, just because it's kind of fun to look at. So that's there. And so, every time you collect eggs, you just turn around and write the number on the egg list. So we have our forms that we've had in our computer for years, and we just print them out and put them in an easy spot to access. And then when the organic inspector shows up, we're like, here's the forms. There's a couple things that we just keep on the computer, that we use rarely. So I need to go into our animal ID log, and I need to write down that our sow had 11 pigs yesterday. And then that'll be in there. And then, when we go to the butcher, we write down the date that those pigs left the farm. And then we have all the paperwork from the butcher, that traces it back to them. And when we get that, we just put it in a folder, and when the inspector shows up and they're like, well, what happened to those pigs? We're like, well, here's the receipt from them going to the butcher, and here's the inventory of what we got. And then we can open the animal ID log and see when those pigs were born. We also keep a medical record too. And that's like one of those things that, like, if we have an emergency and we give animals meds, then we write that down, as needed, like, oh, the cow had mastitis and we give her homeopathics, and we write that down. We do have grazing records. So he does make a note of when they finally when the grass is enough that they can go out eat, and then when he starts feeding hay, so that's twice a year that has to get written down. That's pretty easy. And then, like I said, we note the births. We also note who their mom is, because then that's another step. And the certifiers need that. They need to be able to prove that mom was treated organically for at least 3 months to certify those animals. I do think that sometimes people get really wrapped up in how scary the record keeping feels. And I will 100% admit that my husband is the record keeper. He's way better at it than I am. But I think it's just, a few years of practice and learning what the inspectors are going to ask you for. And then, I'm a really big believer that every farm is as different as the farmer. So each farmer's just got to figure out how to make it easy for them. I love that medical ID, when we have a cow that gets something that another cow has 10 years down the line, we can be like, wait, what worked? Was it certified? Was it not certified? And we can pull that ID and look, or that record, and look and see if there's a organic solution or not. And with the egg record, like, that's how we figure out what we have to sell our eggs for. If we didn't have like a record of how many eggs we got every day, and then the receipts of how much the feed costs, like, how would we figure out how to price our eggs? So, like, it's part of your cost analysis to be a successful farmer, is to keep that stuff to figure out how to price so you can sustain your business. So those are kind of things that really benefit us beyond just keeping the records for organic certification. We 100% believe that getting certified organic is worth it, and it's important, because it just adds so much integrity, and consumers are so confused. They're so confused. And if you care about food being pure, this is a great step. And maybe this is like me. Like, I don't love the government. I don't love people looking over my shoulder telling me how to do things. But it's like a mindset shift that, like, this certifying agency is here to help me. I'm paying them. They work for me. I need to understand this stuff. I can ask them questions whenever I want. They have to explain it to me. Like, try not to do it during your inspection because it costs you money, but call them. I mean, I guess, like, figure out your big why, right? Figure out why you want to be organic. Just keep going back to it when the times are hard, right? And, like, I get it, it's hard and it's expensive, but, like, so are kids and puppies and, like, farming in general. You got to figure out if it's a hard thing that you want to do or not, and if it's worth it to you or not. But I mean, for us, it's been great, and we're really happy about it. And I do think that like part of us being organic has pushed some other farms around here to step up. So yeah, do the hard things. Sometimes they're worth it.